Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
What we have today, I believe, is again, being set apart, and set apart from who? Set apart from the non-believers. But when we're getting the same diseases, we look the same, and my big thing is, the whole scriptures are a ketubah. It's a marriage contract, and it's about a wedding rehearsal that's to come, and it shows us what's to come. And we can't even stay married in our own lives. How are we going to achieve this? We got to learn about love. How do we know about love if we can't stay married? If divorce is just as much in the church than out of the church? So my thing was to study why, is that? And I realized, it is a lack of obedience and passion. However, what leads us away from that is this issue of the whole modesty issue. And a big part of my passion is about modesty. And when it comes to this, I realize this as a man, a married man especially, I have a responsibility to Yahweh, to myself, and to my wife, to protect my the way I do. Understand, it says in the scriptures, not only is the doorway narrow, but the path is narrow as well. So we have to stay on the path, and we can't stray off of it. And for me, it's very powerful when, some women of the world might say, your man has to get his mind out of the gutter. Well, I say, if she's dressed like she's from the gutter, how do you expect us, not to look if you're in front of us? So you need to be dressing like Yahweh, and immodest dress by men and women is leading people away from Yahweh, and it's also leading people to things that are going to lead to disease. And when you look at this, I tell people when it comes to King David says, I shall not let any detestable thing come before my eyes. Now, he didn't say this after he sinned with Bathsheba in repentance. He said this before. So even that, a man who had the power of Yahweh stirred up inside him, still could not resist the visual temptation of an immodestly dressed woman. So we have to be careful and protect ourselves. And this, I tried to find out the healing, the connection between health and this, and then just in doing a lot of study and a lot of research, well, it led me to try something that is practiced in the Orthodox community, which a friend of mine told me about, and when I tried it, I felt better health-wise. So I got into this from a standpoint of protecting and respecting my wife and Yahweh, of just looking at this modesty issue. And it's not only women, also men. I mean, I try to dress appropriately too, because Yahweh covered Adam and Eve with animal skins, not when they were covered with their fig leaves. But I started to practice this, and I know there's probably a word for it in Hebrew, because there's a word for everything. But I started to practice, my wife and my daughter are the only women that I will touch. And boy, oh boy, what a reaction this got, because I'm used to, everyone knew me as the hugger. Not the mugger, because I'm from New York, but the hugger. I used to like to hug people. But I'm known as the hugger, and no more. I don't touch any woman except my wife and my daughter. And I can tell you, as soon as I started practicing that, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, I started to feel healthier. I started to feel better. I started to feel closer to Yahweh. Well, I didn't know why, but I knew it was working. And so then I tried to look a little bit further, and I found out why. And it's, I kind of knew, but I just looked more into it. It's, in Hebrew, there's something called nada, or nadida, which is when a woman is in her unclean stage, a man is not to touch her for about 14 days until she's clean again, until she takes a mikveh and she's clean again. Now, this is going to go way over the head of people in the church, but Messianic believers need and should know about this. So then a woman's clean again, and then the man and the woman can touch each other again. But I don't even touch I want to practice, you don't even touch your wife during this unclean time, because that's how dangerous and destructive it is to touch an unclean woman, even your wife, when they're unclean. One of the reasons why I won't touch another woman is, and it's not the reason why I started doing this, but it's the Jewish reason and the health reason is, well, you don't know when a woman is unclean or not. So the way to protect it is just to never touch that woman. And we're told in the scriptures not even to sit where an unclean woman sits. So we have to protect ourselves, and it sounds really hard and impossible, but once you start doing it, it becomes quite fun, and you definitely heightened your love for Yahweh and your wife. But so I started practicing this, and boy, oh boy, has it made a big difference. And I'm starting to, look more into it and study this.
Interesting. Paul, can I just ask you then, because this was actually something that Christine and I were discussing recently, the reason why, possibly, this is just me speculating, but the reason why Yeshua said to was it Martha? He said, "Do not touch me because I have not yet ascended to my Father." Could that possibly have been the reason why he said that?
It definitely could have been a reason, and it sounds like a very good explanation. I'm also sure people can give you other reasons, but it definitely could have been, and it sounds like one of the reasons. But it's amazing, and it's something we don't think about. You know, we think, oh, the Orthodox might be too religious and all this. No, we're commanded. It's not even something I thought of and feel good about. It's something we're commanded to do or not do. So it's something I've been practicing, and I believe it's going to strengthen my marriage and help that. It already has. But from a standpoint of just being obedient to Yahweh, it's very important from a health standpoint. You know, what happens was I had a ministry that I just recently found. They did a test, and they found that when a man touched an unclean woman, they lose their energy. They actually lose their power, the life force. And, you know, you see there's an unseen, you know, power or a life force that happens, an energy field. And this isn't a New Age teaching. It's a known fact, which leads me to the next thing I want to speak about. But the studies reveal and show when a man touches an unclean woman on an unclean stage, his energy goes down and he gets very weak. And then, of course, he's susceptible to many diseases and so on. Now, here's the interesting thing. I didn't believe in this energy field. I always thought it was a New Age thing and everything else. But I realized it's what the New Age community does with it. But it's certainly an energy field. And how did I find it out? Well, my good friend Rico Cortez was the first one to really bring it to my attention. I interviewed Rico on my show, and he told me about the frequency of certain clothing, because I'm always into how we should dress and what fibers are healthy. Well, the frequency of certain clothing like linen, camel's hair, goat's hair, and even wool are 5,000 units of frequency. That's very high and protective, and it actually protects us against the EMF toxicity that's out there today and so on. But when you mix these fabrics together, like mixing wool and linen, it wipes out this frequency. And they confirm this with certain tests that they've done. They confirm this. So that has the highest. Now cotton might be around the 100, or for organic cotton, and then it gets lower from there. But most of the fabrics that are used today, from rayon to spandex and polyester, are 0. So it's pretty amazing. So, you know, we need to be using a linen, and, you know, but these things are just amazing. So there goes a whole other aspect of health that goes beyond just eating that we can't see. That's really important. And I just really am, personally, I mean, I'm going to look into the clothing more and dress more with linen and so on, and, you know, but I am so excited, you know, not to touch any woman but my wife. And I see what an obsession we've created in today's society of people just like to hug and touch and everything else. And it's not a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a good thing. And
I
I
have
feel,
two questions.
yeah, and I will never,
Sorry, Paul.
yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, if I can ask you two questions in that regard. Actually, clothing fiber was one thing that I was going to ask you about, of course, because we are commanded in Torah to wear clothing of one fiber. Now I had no idea about some of the things that you're talking about now. To me, I just thought that meant, well, perhaps it's just a physical outward display of no mixture, and perhaps it is that as well. But what you're telling us is blowing my mind. The other thing is, what you're telling me is that you will only physically touch your daughter and your wife. Now, what's your advice? How should we greet other females?
Well, I mean, I just, it depends on the situation and who the female is. You know, if you're meeting an Orthodox woman, you don't have any problem because they won't touch you. But it depends who it is and how it is, you know. But I've gotten so far to run away from women that tried to hug me and they think something's wrong with me. And I said, yeah, something is wrong with me. You. I say, you know, I don't want to be touching anyone. But if I have time to explain, and I have no problem explaining, I will. But sometimes I don't have time. They'll put their hand out or they'll go to hug me. Sometimes I'll bow or I'll put my hands together, you know, like hello. Or sometimes I'll just wave to them. But you know what? When they see me with my beard, many times they don't want to touch me, so it's not a problem. So, you know, but it's all good in Paul's hood. You know, I tell people, hey, this is who I am and this is what I represent. And I love it. You know, the way I look and the way I act, you know, one of the greatest compliments somebody can give me is call me legalistic. You know, because if I'm being so obedient to the word that they recognize it, then that's a great. When they start recognizing me like the world and not saying I look any different or act any different, that's when I'll start to worry.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn